energy into a certain pattern that was programmed in at an earlier age. Mechanically, it needs to be addressed about what you're doing inside the brain. Many times you can have old habits that will override the new habits that you're working on instilling. And it takes time and effort. Though I truly believe, and for me, I know this for a fact, there's a shortcut when you know mechanically how the brain operates and what you're doing. You can actually have like an internal image of this is what I'm rewiring. Instead of just saying rewiring, now I can understand what is happening in the brain. Now let's say we have a bad habit, as in, I've brought this up before, get up really late at night, go to the refrigerator, find some ice cream in there and just veg out and watch TV. That, I think everyone can agree, once in a blue moon is very nice, but doing that 3 or 4 nights a week leads down a really bad path. For one, the blue light from the television messes up your sleep patterns or your ability to go to sleep. And then also eating ice cream when you go to bed, it is just sitting in your stomach sac. That's pushing against other organs. And then it's just sitting in there. It's not going through your digestive system. So it's easier just to, and your body's going to absorb it. So it's just not good all around. So let's say this is not a habit that a person wants anymore, but they continue doing it over and over. Well, somebody might say, okay, you need to replace it with a good habit. Whenever you feel like you want to go eat ice cream, go drink a glass of water. Okay, well, what are you mechanically doing in the brain? So you have the brain up here, then you have an energy going to a marker that's saying, get up, go in here, eat ice cream, get dopamine hits, watch a comedy TV show that you're going to binge watch, enjoy it, and then go to sleep. You get all these dopamine hits. These are neural pathways. So basically, the energy goes to this initial marker, which hits a signal that goes to these other processes programmed in of walk to the refrigerator, grab your ice cream, and this is how your body's being told to use the energy. And these are pathways that are programmed in. And the more you do it, the easier it is for your body to repeat these. Then when you get dopamine hits, it's going to get even easier. So at like a base animal level, it's going to feel good in the brain. It's going to feel good in the mouth. We're going to get like humor on the TV and all this is going to be feeling good. And those pathways get locked in and locked in. What I propose, or what I have done for myself, is look at it where I'm hijacking the energy before it even goes to that marker. And the way I did that was by creating a character trigger. I programmed in 4 or 5 different things into one spot in my brain, and for a fact that these 4 or 5 things had never been programmed in before in that spot in my brain. This was the first time it did it, so that means this is a brand new, fresh marker and fresh place to start building new neural pathways, aka habits or things, the way my body uses energy. So when I programmed this in, it would be an extreme exhaustion after I'd worked out, and I would hit the markers that I did to create it. And then all the stuff that I programmed in there would auto-populate. And then from there is basically, I gathered all the energy that could have been done or used in a different way. Because in the past, when I got programmed in the military, when people would be physically exhausted when they'd push super hard, and they would walk around with their chest out or flopping around or holding their hands up and all this stuff, and I had never been physically pushed that hard in my life. And I see this person acting this way, and that's the first time I'm perceiving this, and it gets programmed in. In the future, when I would get to that point of just exhaustion, I would get up and I would just imitate it, because it's almost like a three-dimensional like programming that was happening in the brain, because I would be in new territory. It's like, okay, now that I don't know how to act because I'm used to being programmed externally. What I'm doing now is programming internally to go externally. So when I would get to the end of a workout or a really hard exercise and just pooped, I would hit my character trigger, and all that preloaded information that I programmed in would load up. And so I basically had all the energy go into one marker instead of easily going to the old markers that told me to walk around and act silly or throw my arms up and do all this. Now I'm choosing how I conduct myself, because there's no difference from when you're physically exhausted and walking around with your belly out, heaving, and standing up and holding your body still and holding composure. It's all about how you're using your energy and your focus. So I programmed in the behavior of when I'm physically exhausted, I stand up with composure. And by doing that, I had to capture the energy instead of going to the old neural pathways, and that would send my energy into a certain pattern that was programmed in at an earlier age in an environment when I never had or observed what to do after you've pushed so hard physically. In doing this, I am able to choose now in easy situations, i.e. going to lay on the couch instead of doing laundry. It is easy for me to go to that character trigger with all the preloaded data that I put in there, hit my character trigger, and then I'm taking that energy from going to that marker of we can be comfortable laying on the couch scrolling. And I say we as like mind, body, spirit. All that just laying down, scrolling, getting dopamine hits. Or I can hit my character trigger and I can stand up and I can go do laundry. And so what I did is, so the energy's going up to hit that old marker to tell me to lay down, pick up my phone, start scrolling, and get the ice pack, put it on my back, and just chill out. Instead of that marker being hit and old programming taking over my awareness, I hit the marker and I just basically take that energy and I send it to where I want it to be, where there's a free space basically of like, here's where my energy is and here's where I'm going to send it, and here's how I'm going to operate next. So when I'm viewing the brain as a mechanical or biomechanical processing unit, it makes it so much easier to create new habits or use my energy differently. And it's basically, let's say you have two lights and you have a little junction box underneath those lights, and you flip the light on and the one on the left always turns on, but you don't need that light anymore. Well, you go down to the junction box and there's a switch you can hit that will send the electricity to another light bulb. You just go to that junction box and switch it. And looking at the brain energetically like that, so it makes a lot of sense biomechanically. So you have the old habits, like you said, go to the refrigerator and eat ice cream. We have those old habits that we don't want to do anymore. We hijack that energy, send it to where we want it to go, and eventually the old triggers, let's say the triggers are sleepless, you got a lot on your mind, you're really tired, and those are the triggers to go do the feel-good stuff. Well, I'm basically hijacking that energy to that old marker and I'm sending it to the new marker. And what happens with those old neural pathways, I'm not reprogramming those old neural pathways, because I look at the brain like it's a mushroom with all these like tendrils going through it, and it's always morphing and moving. And as those triggers no longer send energy to that marker to do that behavior that gets the dopamine hits that are easy to do, that's been done so many times, when I hit the character trigger to do something productive, instead of that, let's say listen to a meditation and put an ice pack on my back and lift my knees up and actually rest well, then the body starts to learn in the mind of the marker that when I'm feeling lonely, tired, and sleepless, what gets triggered is a meditation and setting the body up to rest as good as possible, as best as possible, to relieve stress points and to lay here until it goes to sleep. What happens to those old neural pathways is they just kind of go away. They're not being used, use it or lose it. They just are no longer applicable because the brain now knows every time that these triggers appear, this is what happens now. The energy gets sent here. So now it's no longer just, self-discipline and try harder and harder. It's look at it mechanically how the brain operates. And when you do that and you program in a character trigger, basically you can take the habits that you don't want to have and you can hijack that energy to a better habit or a better discipline that you want and just pursue that. But first you have to program the character trigger in, and that takes the work. But then once you do the work, that character trigger will basically help you dominate control of your brain and not let old programming take over and hijack your creativity, your awareness, your memories, your habits, and all this other stuff that your brain can do automatically when it's pre-programmed without you even thinking about it. But we don't want to not be we don't want to not be aware of our brain, what's going on. We don't want to let it run on autopilot. When we're doing that, that is just hopefully that the random programming that I've gotten throughout my life in the world is good enough to carry me through the next moments. When in reality, if you want to break free and have a different path in life than what's been programmed into you, you have to take control of your brain. So you go from being the pinball in the pinball machine to becoming the pinball machine. And so when you see life coming, you're like, boop, boop, this is what I want to do with this. This is how I want this to react. No longer are you going down there and life is just hitting you back and forth and you're responding with pre-programmed responses. You take charge of your brain. And if that's something you really want to do, man, I highly suggest that you invest the time into creating a character trigger and take control of your brain. The end.